Have you noticed the quiet signs that your life is shifting? When patterns you once tolerated start to bother you, it's usually because something bigger has taken root inside you. The seed of wealth. It begins in the mind long before it shows up in the world. I'm John Garcia, and you're on the Napoleon Hill channel. If this speaks to you, hit subscribe. I share new content every day to help you break a little more free from the system. Comment below with the city you're watching from. I'd love to know your reality. If you're recognizing these signs, it means one powerful reality. You're already moving along the path to wealth. Not merely the kind of wealth counted in money, but the kind that begins in the mind, where all prosperity is first created. Understand this: every fortune, every achievement, every lasting legacy left by great men started as an unseen seed, planted not in soil, but deep in the subconscious. And if you're noticing these signs, it means that seed has begun to grow. The first signal that you are on the road to wealth is your increasing discomfort with mediocrity. You feel it stronger now than ever. Where once you tolerated the patterns of an ordinary life, now they frustrate you. What once seemed acceptable, working without purpose, spending without direction, surrounding yourself with shallow distractions, now feels unbearable. This is not just frustration. This is awakening. Your mind is rejecting everything that no longer matches your identity. It is casting out the habits, the people, and the beliefs that kept you small, not just financially, but spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. Wealth begins the moment you start saying, "This is not who I am." That's the first turning point. You're no longer impressed by appearances. You're no longer entertained by small talk. You crave strategy. You crave depth. You crave freedom. Not through luck, but through intention. And this hunger is the signal that you've crossed a threshold. You are beginning to walk with the posture of a man who has decided. And once a man decides, the universe begins to move in his favor. Another clear sign is your growing intolerance for wasted time. You now understand that time is the true currency of the wealthy. The poor spend it carelessly, the average trade it for temporary pleasure, but the wealthy invest it. Every second becomes a brick in the foundation of your future. You no longer live for the weekend, you live for the vision. You have realized that a single hour of building is worth more than a year of wishing. And because you've embraced this truth, you protect your time as though it were treasure. You say no more often now, not out of arrogance, but alignment. Each refusal to distraction is a yes to destiny. You've grown allergic to idle talk, endless scrolling, and shallow entertainment. You've withdrawn from people who drain your spirit and dull your edge. You now understand that energy is sacred and attention itself is wealth. The man who governs his attention always governs his outcomes. This mastery of attention is another undeniable sign. While others are reactive, you are deliberate. While others consume, you create. While others chase, you attract. Because you are no longer scattered, but focused, and focus is the hammer that shatters the chains of poverty. A man who is focused cannot be manipulated. He cannot be distracted by comparison. He walks with direction, and the man with direction will always be wealthier than the one lost in confusion. No matter what sits in his bank account. Another sign that wealth is drawing near. You have started to think long-term. You no longer live by emotional impulse. You've begun to design systems. You think in years, not days. You're not simply chasing income anymore. You're building infrastructure. You're creating assets, assets of skill, assets of character, assets of value. You've become the kind of man who asks, "How will this pay me in 5 years?" instead of, "How does this make me feel today?" That shift, though it seems small, is the foundation of empires. You see money differently. Now, that is a mark of growth. Where once you feared it, you now respect it. You understand money is a servant, not a master. You see it as an amplifier, not a savior. Most importantly, you view it as the result of value, not just effort. You've stopped trading hours for dollars and instead started multiplying your value through leverage, through ideas, through systems. This is wealth consciousness. Wealth is not a number. It is a mindset. Poor minds complain, wait, and blame. Wealthy minds create, solve, and act. You've stopped blaming your background. You've stopped waiting for permission. You've stopped searching for external confirmation. You have become the sign. You are now the one who moves first. You are now the one who says, "It starts with me." That is power, and power always precedes prosperity. Another undeniable indicator. You've grown obsessed with progress. You are reading more, learning more, asking sharper questions, listening to conversations that stretch your mind. You replace gossip with mentorship. You trade complaints for commitments. You exchange theory for execution. And though imperfect, your execution produces momentum. Momentum is the greatest asset of the man who seeks wealth, not speed, momentum. Because speed fades, but momentum compounds. Every disciplined day you stack, every focused hour you complete, every hard decision you honor adds weight to your character. And weight creates gravity. People feel it. Opportunities feel it. The world begins to respond to your seriousness. You have become serious now. Not heavy in mood, but anchored in mission. You smile more, not because life is easier, but because you are aligned. You no longer panic when things go wrong. You don't excuse your failures. You don't speak about goals the same way anymore. You carry yourself like someone who expects to win. You move as a man who has already arrived in his mind. Every wealthy man I've studied had this trait in common. They walked in advance of their results. They didn't wait for success to appear before acting worthy of it. They moved as if prosperity was already guaranteed. They planned as if the vision was already complete. And now you do the same. You now visualize in the morning. You speak victory over your life. You guard your words because you know words create. Your language is shifting, and that shift is a powerful sign. You no longer say, "I can't," maybe, or hopefully. You declare, "I will, I am, and it's done." You've erased doubt from your vocabulary. You've stopped rehearsing failure. You've turned your voice into prophecy. You narrate your future with precision, and the man who commands his language commands his reality. Another undeniable sign is that your circle is changing. You are outgrowing conversations. You are leaving behind communities driven by comfort, not because you are better, but because you are building bigger. The greater your vision, the smaller your circle must become. You now understand proximity is power, and poverty is contagious. So you place yourself in rooms where excellence is the standard. You've realized you don't need to be the smartest man in the room. You just need to be in rooms where smart men are speaking. You've become a student of wealth. Not only the mechanics of income, but the principles of energy, discipline, and legacy. You are no longer simply learning how to make money. You are building a philosophy. You are building a system. You are building a code. And that code is carrying you forward. Another unmistakable sign. Adversity no longer breaks you. It builds you. Where once you crumbled under pressure, now you rise through it. You've realized that every obstacle is training. You've stopped resenting failure and started learning from it. You don't run from pain anymore. You transform it. You extract its wisdom. You turn it into fuel. And because of that, you now move through trials with grace. This is the mark of a man being prepared for true wealth, because wealth demands a strong container, and that container is character. If you're noticing these signs, it means your character is expanding. You've grown more responsible with your word. You finish what you start. You keep showing up even when the feeling is gone. You're becoming the kind of man who can be trusted with more. And trust always precedes transfer. That is a spiritual law. When you can be trusted, wealth finds you. Because wealth is energy, and energy flows to structure. And when you create structure through habits, vision, service, and consistency, the energy of abundance begins to move. Not because you forced the system, but because you became the system. You've become the system now. You're no longer guessing, you're executing. You're no longer hoping, you're building. And that, my friend, is the clearest sign of all. You are on the path to wealth. Every man's journey reaches a moment when he feels the shift. Not because of what he owns, but because of who he's becoming. The shift is quiet. It doesn't arrive with applause or fireworks. It arrives as new standards. It shows up when you hold yourself accountable, even when no one is watching. It reveals itself when you do what most won't, because you know your future requires it. If you're seeing these signs, you're no longer chasing money, you're becoming the kind of man money chases. And never forget this, the man who is truly wealthy does not lead with money. He leads with value. He leads with clarity. He leads with purpose, because he knows wealth is never pursued. It is attracted. Wealth comes when you become useful, reliable, excellent. Each time you multiply your usefulness, your wealth potential multiplies with it. The world is full of people who want to be rich, but the world is built by those who are useful. Look at your habits now. If you're noticing these signs, it means your habits have begun to align with long-term gain, not short-term pleasure. You no longer eat just for taste. You eat for fuel. You no longer sleep to escape. You rest to recover. You no longer scroll to kill time. You read to expand your mind. These shifts are not small. They are evidence that your identity is evolving. And identity is the engine of wealth. When you change how you see yourself, you change what you allow. A poor man excuses his bad habits. A rich man builds upon discipline. Discipline is not punishment. It is privilege. Discipline protects your time, your focus, and your emotions. Without it, nothing great can last. With it, everything becomes possible. If your mornings are becoming more structured, if your environment feels more intentional, if your calendar grows more organized, it is no accident. It is the behavior of a man preparing for stewardship, not survival. Because you cannot carry wealth while still thinking like a man only trying to get by. You must begin to think like a man who carries legacy on his shoulders. And the man who carries legacy doesn't waste his time on pointless arguments. He doesn't chase shallow validation. He doesn't measure worth by applause. He is grounded in principle. He knows real wealth isn't only about how much he earns. It's about how much he builds, how much he keeps, and how much he passes forward. So the next generation does not have to start over. Another sign you're walking the path to wealth. Your relationship with work has matured. You've stopped asking for easy. You've stopped looking for shortcuts. You've stopped worshiping the idea of passive income without first becoming actively valuable. You now understand leverage only works when value exists. You see hard work, not as something to avoid, but as something sacred to master. You no longer view effort as endless grind, but as a gateway, because every repetition, every focused hour, every deliberate action compounds into competence. And competence is currency. Wealthy men are masters of something. Not everything, but something. They commit, they refine, they simplify. And in that simplicity, they find power. You've also learned to regulate your emotions. Where once you reacted, now you respond. Where you once panicked, now you pause. Where you once carried every burden inside, now you investigate with clarity. You've discovered that emotional intelligence is not weakness. It is a weapon. It allows you to move strategically while others are trapped by impulse. It enables you to choose based on principle, not pressure. And that difference, that internal strength, makes you a man who can lead, who can build, who can multiply. Multiplication is the true key, not only of money, but of self. When you begin thinking in terms of multiplying your time, your skill, your vision, your message, your influence, your mind has entered the realm of wealth. Because wealthy minds don't just spend, they multiply. Poor minds only consume. They chase the next thrill, the next distraction, the next dopamine hit. Wealthy minds delay gratification in favor of multiplication. That's why you're studying instead of scrolling. That's why you're building systems instead of running from stress. That's why you're investing your energy instead of wasting it. You're realizing that every action is either an asset or a liability. Every habit compounds, either for you or against you. And because you've seen this truth, you now make decisions as your future self, not your current feelings. This is the pivot most never reach, the moment when your vision speaks louder than your emotions, when your why outweighs your weakness, when you choose based on outcome, not comfort. That is more than growth. That is preparation for abundance. You are preparing now, not only with goals, but with structure. You've begun to measure your inputs. You track your energy. You audit your time. You monitor your spending. You examine your behaviors, not because you are obsessive, but because you are responsible. And responsibility is the foundation of freedom. A man who cannot be responsible can never be rich, because wealth will always escape a life built on disorder. But wealth is drawn to discipline, to stewardship, to intentional living. Another undeniable sign. Your self-talk has become stronger. You no longer punish yourself for every mistake. Instead, you learn, adjust, and move forward. You speak life over yourself. You declare truth. You've realized that before you can lead anyone else, you must first lead yourself, and that leadership begins in the mirror. Each morning, you choose the voice you will follow. And now, you choose the voice of power. You are building yourself with language that empowers. This is not weakness. This is mastery. You no longer need constant hype. You've outgrown empty motivation without movement. You're no longer dazzled by flashy lifestyles built on nothing. Instead, you respect consistency. You admire humility. You pursue wisdom. You would rather be silent and successful than loud and empty. And this inner shift, this deep character, is magnetic to lasting wealth. You've also become more sensitive to the unseen. If you're noticing these signs, you've likely developed sharper awareness of energy. You can feel when something is out of alignment. You can sense when words don't match spirit. You can detect when an opportunity looks good but isn't right. That sensitivity is not weakness. It is discernment. It means your intuition is sharpening. The wealthy man always trusts his intuition, not as emotion, but as awareness. You are aware now, not paranoid, aware. Aware of your choices, your patterns, your blind spots, and that awareness gives you power. It allows you to adjust before the damage is done. That is what separates the man who keeps what he builds from the man who loses it. It's not intelligence, it's awareness, it's humility, the willingness to adapt, to ask better questions, to evolve when others grow arrogant. If you see this humility in yourself, you are standing on sacred ground. Because the path to wealth is sacred. It isn't for everyone. It isn't for the crowd. It is for the committed. For the man who stays when things get hard. For the man who decides when others delay. For the man who sacrifices short-term applause. For long-term abundance. That man is you now. You don't just want more anymore. You are becoming more. Your life may not yet fully reflect it. You may still be in the early stages. You may still be climbing. But deep inside, you know you are different now. Your mind is sharper. Your intentions are cleaner. Your actions are bolder. You are no longer the same man. And you will never go back. That is wealth. Not just having, but becoming. And every sign you see now is proof. Proof that you are becoming the kind of man who can handle wealth, manage wealth, multiply wealth, and pass on wealth, not just of money, but of mind. If you are seeing these signs, And more importantly, if you are living them, then hear me clearly. Wealth is no longer a possibility for you. It is an inevitability. Why? Because you have already become the kind of man wealth was designed to serve. You no longer chase riches like a beggar, hoping for a blessing. You've earned the right to expect prosperity, not through entitlement, but through alignment. Your thoughts, your choices, your actions, and your standards now reflect abundance at the core. Look at your mornings. You no longer treat them as frantic obligations. You treat them as sacred ground. You rise with purpose, not panic. You prepare instead of react. You lead your day instead of being led by it. And every morning begun with intention is a seed of wealth planted. Compound those seeds over months, years, and decades, and no force on earth can stop what's coming to you. Wealth does not flow to the scattered, it flows to the deliberate. And you, my friend, have become a man of deliberate purpose. Even your goals have transformed. Where once you chased status, now you pursue significance. Where once you wanted money to feel powerful, now you know real power is mastery over yourself. You've discovered that true freedom is not about buying more, it's about needing less. And from that posture, you've stepped into mastery. Because the man who needs nothing is the most dangerous man alive. He cannot be manipulated, he cannot be distracted, he cannot be bought. And because of that, wealth is drawn to him naturally. You've learned the wealthiest people are not the ones who hoard, but the ones who create. You've stepped into the mindset of value creation. You no longer ask, what can I get? Instead, you ask, what can I give that multiplies? This is the separation between the wealthy and the merely hopeful. Hopeful men wish. Wealthy men serve. They understand money follows value, and value flows from a refined mind and sharpened skill set. And you are sharpening now. Each day you think deeper. Each day you solve faster. Each day you speak with more clarity. That is evidence of a man preparing for magnitude. But never forget the greatest shift of all, identity. Because before every financial breakthrough, there is always an internal one. If your identity has changed, then your reality has already started to change. You no longer say, I'm trying. You say, I'm becoming. You don't say, maybe one day. You say, it's already done. I'm catching up to it. You walk as if it's finished. You work as if it's finished. You plan as if it's finished. And that internal certainty is what the world responds to. Energy does not lie. When your mind is made up, reality bends to match it. Even in silence, you are building. You no longer need constant feedback to know you're on track. You've developed the habit of showing up free from the need when nobody notices. You've become your own accountability. And that self-respect, that integrity, is the raw material from which true wealth is made. Because wealth without character is always temporary. But wealth built on identity, discipline, and inner power, that kind of wealth outlives generations. Understand this. It is no longer a matter of if, it is a matter of when. The man you are becoming is inevitable because you no longer make decisions based on your present limitations. You make them from the vision of your future self. You no longer ask, what can I afford? Instead, you ask, what would the man I'm becoming choose? You've stopped budgeting for your fears and started investing in your faith. You've turned every dollar into a soldier, every task into a message, every conversation into an opportunity. And because of this alignment, wealth has no choice but to respond. You now speak with conviction. You communicate with clarity. You own your time. You protect your energy. You move with rhythm, not rush. You think ahead. You ask sharper questions. You no longer wait for life to assign you value. You assign it to yourself. And when a man knows his value, the world cannot help but respond. You no longer beg for worth. You walk in it. You've also made peace with solitude, where once you feared being alone, now you cherish it. Solitude has become your workshop, your training ground. your altar of refinement. The man who can sit in silence and build in the dark is the man who can be trusted with abundance in the light. Most men fear silence because it forces them to confront themselves. But you faced yourself, and you grew. You've stopped outsourcing your discipline. You no longer make others responsible for your habits. You don't need reminders to do what you promised. You honor your word even in private. And when your private behavior matches your public declaration, that is wealth. Because true wealth is congruence. One mind, one mission, one man. You've developed vision, not the kind sold on posters, but the kind etched into your spirit. You see your future before it's visible. You speak life into empty places. You build when no one is watching. You plant when others complain about the weather. And because of this, you will reap what others only dream about, not through luck, not through inheritance, but by law. The law of cause and effect. The law of discipline. The law of responsibility. If you are truly walking this path, there is one more sign that cannot be denied. You've become impossible to unseat. You are no longer shaken by delay. You are no longer discouraged by rejection. You are no longer broken by setbacks. Why? Because you've trained your mind to interpret pain as preparation. You've mastered the art of extracting profit from adversity. You've become an alchemist, turning resistance into results, loss into leverage, and delay into direction. You've made excellence your default. Not something you practice only when convenient, but who you are even when no one is watching. You've made integrity your compass. You've made purpose your currency. You no longer just talk about goals. You build systems, because goals inspire, but systems sustain. And every day you are stacking small wins, understanding that daily discipline compounds into outcomes far greater than any short-lived success. You are no longer building for next week. You are building for your legacy. You are not here to impress, you are here to last. And that posture, that long game mentality, makes wealth inevitable. So hear me again. If you are seeing these signs, you are not off track. You are not late. You are not lost. You are being forged. And everything you are becoming, your habits, your posture, your clarity, your confidence, these are not accidents. They are confirmations. Proof that you are aligning with the man you were always meant to become. That man is already inside you. He's the one who rises early, who studies instead of complains, who executes instead of hesitates, who speaks truth, lives truth and builds truth. He doesn't just wear success, he embodies it. And each day, that man grows stronger, sharper, bolder, freer. You don't owe the world an explanation. You don't owe anyone proof. But you do owe yourself follow-through. You owe yourself consistency. You owe your future family the version of you who didn't quit when it got hard. You owe your calling the man who answered it without excuses. So stand tall, walk firm, keep building. The world may not notice today, but wealth has already noticed. Because the man you are now, disciplined, aligned, focused, and becoming, is the very man wealth has been searching for all along. Go to the comments and post this as a public commitment. I treat my time like wealth. Every action I take today is an asset for my 5 years from now self. If you want to reinforce it, add, I decide like someone who's already made it. Focus, discipline, and value first. Wealth is energy that flows into structure. When identity, discipline, and value align, money stops being chased and starts being attracted. What you repeat in silence, sustain as a habit, and organize into a system eventually shows up in your bank account and, more importantly, in your character. If this resonated with you, like, share, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos. In the next episode, I'll break down 7 practical systems to multiply value: attention, energy, time, communication, network, digital assets, and capital. with simple steps you can implement in 30 days. See you there.